Thank you for your patience. I know we started a little bit late, but because it's Friday and people are stuck in traffic and coming from work, we wanted to give everyone an opportunity that could be here to be here. I would like to actually begin with a public service announcement. There is a maroon Kia Optima that is in a parking lot that has its door wide open and a driver is not there. So if you're driving a Kia, perhaps you want to go and close the door, or because our safety team does not know what to do with a particular vehicle. But otherwise, welcome everyone. My name is Vitaly Perlinsky, and I'm the pastor here at Scenic Hills Seventh Avenue Church. It's going to be a wonderful weekend, a weekend packed with information, interaction, wonderful presentations, as well as practical applications. I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Prison Cherry, who is the director of our conference. He's also a leader of our health ministries. And Doc, please tell us about what we get to expect this weekend.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pastor, for the introduction. I do want to welcome everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Prince Ocheri. I'm a practicing cardiologist at the UT Health San Antonio, and I also direct the program here. It's an honor and a privilege to have you here and to have our speakers here. Thank you again for flying from Ohio, Washington D.C., from Atlanta to be here to just share your wealth of information with us. And I want to thank you for coming from all parts of San Antonio and beyond to be here to just share, interact with us. And also a special thank you to patients who want to share their health journey with us. We want to be thankful as well. Last year, we had our inaugural San Antonio Preventive Health Conference, and it was great. We talked about San Antonio being a blue zone. What did that mean? It means habits, lifestyle habits, including nutrition, exercise, sleep, recreation, and others, mental health, that together makes us live longer and healthier without necessarily relying only on medications. And this is the foundation of health that many times is ignored in the health. This year, we are taking it a bit further in a slight different angle, looking at exercise, looking at recreation, and looking at rest, different forms of rest, and how that impacts health. It's going to be a wonderful experience. The speakers are ready, and I know that you are going to be, have a blessed, weekend. And don't forget, we have 5K on Sunday. If you go home, get your shoes ready because we're going to have fun as well. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Now, if you were here last year, you should remember me. Same guy. I think I've aged well, like a fine wine. Although we don't really encourage drinking around here, actually. We don't do that. That's not part of the issue. So I see some new faces. And so before we get started introducing our first speaker, I see some new faces. Let's see some new faces. You, sir, I see you're a new face here. I'm calling you out. Again, my name is AJ, so we're friends now. What's your name?
Nikhil.
Nikhil. How did you hear about the conference?
I'm part of the NewMe Health program, so I was a patient, no longer.
Oh, amen. Look at that. We're going to hear from you later, maybe? All right. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to do one other. Who else is new this year? Who didn't come last year? Didn't come last year? Okay. We've got to introduce yourself. I'm AJ.
I'm Louie Beth.
Louie Beth, how did you hear about the conference?
I'm actually a clinical nutritionist, and I heard of this by NewMe, from NewMe.
Very good, very good. I always like to hear how people found us. Now, those of you that have children, if you didn't know, we added a children's program this year. You can register them, and they are right up the hill. They're safe, and so you can tell your friends and your neighbors that if they want a break from their kids, we're offering free childcare. Like nobody does that, but we're doing it this year. We are so happy that you were here. And before we begin, we want to begin with a word of prayer. So if you wouldn't mind, we want to begin with a word of prayer. Thank you, dear Lord, for those who were able to join us. We pray that this weekend would be a blessing to all who are here, those that are listening online. We thank you for the opportunity to be here, and we just thank you so much for the opportunity to learn about rest and exercise and all the other things that we will hear. We pray that you would give us the strength to incorporate the things that we hear. In your name we do pray. Amen. Well, I would say that our first speaker needs no introduction, but probably for you, he probably does. For me, he doesn't. Dr. Hahn, come on up. I feel like I know Dr. Hahn, like we're old friends, because Dr. Hahn is actually a very prolific Facebook poster. And we're Facebook friends now, so I feel like we know each other. I know
we're
he
like
has
real friends.
We're like real friends, right? I know he has a son that's at college right now. I know he lives in Ohio. I even know that tonight they went to the Turkish cafe over there. The only thing that you didn't post was what you ate. What did you eat?
Actually, I had a falafel wrap. It was really, really good. Very healthy, totally plant-based. Had a little salad with it. Then we had baba ganoush, which is smashed up eggplant with a ton of garlic in it. Really, really tasty.
Very good, very good. Now, we talked about the 5K. Last year, what place did you finish?
I have no idea.
You don't remember? Okay, but
No.
this year, are you trying to win it all?
No,
No,
that'd be
okay.
bad form. Let other people win.
Let other people win. Very good.
Think about other people.
Very good. But we did want to point out that, do we have to run at the 5K? Or can I walk?
You can walk, stroll, walk your dog, do whatever. It's just great to be outside with the community of people. Makes it a lot more fun.
And while they are doing the 5K, you're talking to them as well, like answering questions that they have, just having conversations?
Yeah, we can tell you things you don't want to hear, what you shouldn't do. We can guilt you into doing it, all these other things. But yeah, we can have time to talk to each other, but also just uplift and support each other on this is really a journey, a health journey, and running a race is a really good analogy for that.
Very good. Now, I don't want to take up too much time because I know you have a powerful presentation for us, and so without further ado, Dr. Harvey Hahn.
AJ, thank you. All right. First, I'd like to thank everyone at the Scenic Hills Church for inviting me back. After last year, I wasn't sure if you wanted me back, but I'm glad to be here, have some really, really cool things to talk about. So the title, the title given to me is Exercise, Recreation, Rest, and Why Balance Matters. I changed it to Exercise, Recreation, Rest, and Why Balance Matters. We're going to have a lot of examples of how you can remake yourself from the inside out. It's totally doable. Been done by a lot of people, including myself, and hopefully this gave you some inspiration to do so. All right, the first thing, I love these little memes. It's not that diabetes, heart disease, obesity runs in your family. It's that no one runs in your family. Okay, you can fix that problem with the 5K on Sunday. But this is actually a truism, and we'll talk about that more. Now, a lot of people will say, I don't have time to exercise, doc. I'm too busy to exercise 30 minutes a day. If you do the math, 24 hours minus 8 hours of sleep, 16 hours, 30 minutes of that is about 3% of your waking time. You have to ask yourself, am I willing to give 3% effort for my health, my longevity, and my family? If you say I can't give 3%, then we have a bigger problem than just your overall health, seriously. One thing to think about, exercise is the most effective but least used method for increasing your energy, increasing your mood, increasing mental clarity, getting better sleep, and helping you lose weight. If you can exercise, or we'll talk about this more, just get more active, you can have a huge impact on all these areas, which will basically change your life. Okay, now, most people go, there's an obesity epidemic in America, there's a diabetes type 2 epidemic in America, and most people say it's done or caused by diet, sugar, probably mostly due to processed foods, including soda. And I'll be honest, I think that's probably correct. This group of researchers, though, had a really interesting analysis. It's hard to see, but the blue lines is a number of people in the 1990s that did zero activity. The black bars are currently how many people do zero physical activity in the United States. And what you can see, it's tripled. So the amount of inactivity was usually like 7 or 10% in men or females. It's gone up as high as 60, 70%. And these are people that are admitting that they don't do diddly besides what they minimally have to do their life. Big problem here. Now, is it really true that we don't exercise a lot? So this is a great study, 1,700 people. They were given two things by the researchers. One was a journal. The second thing was an accelerometer to measure what they actually did. The first thing they noticed is in the journal, they overestimated their exercise time by an hour each. This gets better. The men, I love this part. The men said, 20 minutes a day, I do vigorous exercise. When they checked the data on the accelerometer, it was 2.9 minutes. Start thinking about that. Women, you can laugh, but you're a little bit better than the men. The men are horrible. Now, this is the next interesting thing, sedentary time. They wrote down their journals, I didn't do much for 7 hours a day. They were both wrong by about 2 hours. So you're much more sedentary than you think, and you're way less active than you think you are. That's a recipe for not burning calories, not increasing your metabolism, and going to be gaining weight. Now, there's an easy way. Just give me a pill, doc. I don't want to change. Changing my diet, sleeping early, exercising, that's too hard. I don't want to do that. And this led us to this. This is the latest study in JAMA looking at Ozempic, or all the GLP-1 agonists, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Ozempic. Right now, the estimate is 40% of the US population has an indication to get one of these drugs. That's crazy. Now, Ozempic does have a role in health and weight loss, but the problem with Ozempic and the GLP-1s is you have not only fat loss, you have muscle loss. You want to keep as much muscle as possible. The older you get, the more important that is. The second thing is as you lose weight, your metabolism goes down. When you lose muscle, your metabolism goes way down. And so that means you're going to be a hard time losing more weight. And what we found in the early studies, people that come off GLP-1s, they have massive weight regain. And it's almost all fat. So once you start a GLP-1, you're almost going to be married to that drug. If you can do it a different way, that's going to be really, really important. Now, muscle is really important. This is a graph that's really interesting. The top two lines, you will do better, live longer if you have more muscle mass, regardless if you're fat or not fat. Now, the bottom two lines, you will have more events die faster if you have more fat and less muscle. Muscle mass is really, really important. I don't have a slide for this, but think about if you cannot get off the toilet because your leg muscles are so weak, or if you fall down on the ground and you can't even do a push-up on your knees, you're in a lot of trouble. You're one fall away from going to a nursing home. And that's why muscle strength is really, really important. And that's why they have this whole category called the fit obese. There are some obese people that have nothing wrong metabolically with them. Now, if you follow those people long enough, they usually typically get diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. But there is a time where the obesity of itself is not enough to overwhelm the whole system. So we need to intervene before that happens. Now let's talk about the hard choices. You can run, sweat, feel out of breath, or we can do stuff like crack your chest and fix the problem. Okay? And we were just talking about this in the lobby earlier. A lot of people are saying, hey, if I have a heart attack, I'm just going to go in, they're going to put one of these stent things in me, and that's going to be okay. In the 1960s, if you had a heart attack, you're in the hospital for like 3 to 4 weeks, you're at bed rest for 6 months, then you got a blood clot, a pulmonary embolus, and then you died. So, I'm seriously, that's what happened to you. Nowadays, you have a heart attack, you go to the hospital, we stent you, you go to ICU for a day, the next day you get discharged on a bunch of medications. And people are like, oh, having a heart attack is no big deal. I just get a stent and get on some meds and everything's taken care of. Yeah, we're just kind of managing, putting like a bunch of Band-Aids on you, holding you together, but we're not fixing the root cause problem, which means you're probably going to have another heart attack. Now, for me, I made my own personal choice, a plant-based diet, started running, lost a bunch of weight, got off a bunch of meds. So this is my personal story, but I'm going to have even more impressive personal stories later on here. Now, when you talk about exercise, there's a couple of things we need to talk about first to set the boundaries. One is, can you exercise too much? Who thinks you can exercise too much? Yeah, actually you can, and we'll talk about that. But generally speaking, to get to that point, you have to be an ultra-marathon runner. Everyone short of that, you're not exercising too much. Now, this study is very interesting. This is important. This is called the Copenhagen Heart Study. And this made a huge splash when it came out. And what you can see about 4,000 patients, when you did light exercise, you cut your event rate by 78%. Moderate wasn't as good. If you were a vigorous exerciser, you almost doubled your death rate. And people were shocked at this study. Now, the problem about the study is there's only 36 people of the 4,000 that were vigorous exercisers. And for some reason, that group just had a lot of events. Now, there's been 3 big studies. This one I just picked. This is the biggest of the 3, 200,000 people. And what you see here is the harder you exercise, there's a stepwise decrease in your event rate, which is what we expect and what the other studies have also shown. So the general thinking now is the more you exercise, the better you're going to do, the longer you're going to live. Is that believable? Okay, so I'd rather take 57,000 people versus 36 as my level of evidence. Okay. Now, the other thing we have to think about is how quickly do you get out of shape? So I'm a cardiologist, Prince is a cardiologist. In spring, well, actually, you guys have good weather here. In Ohio, when spring comes, I get a bunch of patients that can't breathe. And they go, "Doc, my heart is messed up. I think I have heart failure." What's the one question I ask them? What did you do all winter? And what's the answer? Nothing. And I go, okay, let's do this. If you start walking and you slowly get better, then it's probably just you got out of shape over the winter. You start walking and you're not feeling better, call me, then we'll start doing some testing. About 99% of the time, they call me back and go, "Oh, I'm feeling better." And I go, "That's great." So it's just being out of shape. Now, this study is really interesting because what they did is they analyzed people in the ICU on a ventilator so they can't move. And what they found is within 7 days, they did biopsies, biochemical analysis, and they ultrasounded the muscle bundle sizes. And what they found is basically within 7 days of doing nothing, your muscles started shrinking. All right, disuse atrophy. This is really interesting. On the left side is a normal muscle biopsy. On the right side is a biopsy at 7 days where you see the cell walls are being broken down. The cells are actually being destroyed. Not because we're overusing them, because you're not doing anything. So the idea, use it or lose it, is actually real. Now, talking about some really interesting stories here. There's a movie called Marathon Challenge. It was on Nova. I watched it. Really inspiring. They 13 people who were couch potatoes, and they got an exemption to run the Boston Marathon. So these guys went from 0 to 26.2 miles in about 9 months. Everyone finished the marathon except one person who got injured during the training session. So think about that. You can be a non-runner and do the 5K on Sunday, and in 9 months, you can complete a marathon. When you talk to people that have had a big health change and they do a marathon, they say when they cross the finish line, this is the single biggest thing they've ever done in their life because they feel it's such a huge accomplishment, and it really is from where they were. So it's pretty cool to see. Here's another great movie called From Fat to Finish Line. So 12 strangers met on social media. They lost about 100 pounds each, and they all formed a team to run a Ragnar relay. Ragnars are 200-mile, 2-day races where you get in a van and people take turns running laps. So it's actually a really cool event. So these are some of the people. This is Katie, dropped 125 pounds. Just the pictures tell the story. Ada, this is very interesting. So she was runner-up on Biggest Loser, lost 170 pounds, left the show, gained it all back, joined this group, and has kept the weight off continually since that point. One thing that she talks about, we're not going to talk about this a lot, but she had a bunch of unresolved mental health issues with her family that was making her eat. So it's not just the exercise, it's not just the food. Emotions, mental, all these things are incredibly important for your overall health. All right. Leela is another person, I think she lost 130 pounds. It was interesting, she was set up for gastric bypass surgery, but before you get a gastric bypass surgery, you have to demonstrate some weight loss. She lost a bunch of weight, goes, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and she dropped 130. This is really cool, this is the captain, he's the guy that organized the team. He dropped 90 pounds. The cool thing, got off all medications for cholesterol, diabetes, blood pressure. So he is no longer hypertensive, diabetic, or hyperlipidemic. He's basically normal. what I really love about this picture is, in the other picture, the pre-picture, he's smoking, firearm in the background, about the most unsafe things you can be doing right now. Now, this is Texas, so you guys probably aren't worried about guns. So I'll leave that there. Okay. Now, here's another great story. So Zach Alstead, that's his picture on the left when he was 350 pounds, and that's him after running an Ironman. Now, when he started running at 10 p.m. Why? Well, he was embarrassed. He didn't want any of his neighbors to see him run. It took about 3 months for him to get to the point where he could run 1 mile without stopping. They did 1 mile, they did a 5K, 10K, half marathon, half Ironman, full Ironman. So a full Ironman, sorry about that, is 140.6 miles. So he went from nothing couch potato to doing a full Ironman. It is totally possible to do. Now, this is an even more interesting transformation. Robert Downey Jr., do you remember why he was busted? Okay, he was high on heroin, climbed through a little kid's window, went to bed in a girl's bedroom. The girl came up to her room and goes, "There's a dude sleeping in my bed." Went and got the father, and the father's like, "Why is Robert Downey Jr. in my kid's bed?" So they called the police, he got arrested. So he got off of drugs and started doing martial arts, lost a bunch of weight, looks great, but the important thing is not his abs. The important thing is he was on a trajectory to basically kill himself with drugs. He has now completely reversed that, and now he's living happy and healthy. Even if his career had been totally destroyed by the heroin incident, it wouldn't have mattered. He would still be alive and still be happy. We have to keep all these things in perspective here. Now, the last thing about exercise we're going to talk about before we move into more things about exercise, this is really, really important. The more you exercise, the more calories you burn, right? Actually, no, and that's a depressing thought, but in these researchers, they said there's either what they call the additive formula for exercise or the constrained. And in the additive formula, the more exercise, you have consistent calorie burn. So the more exercise, the more calories you burn. In the constrained model, they go, at some point, your body adapts. So they had radioactive water so you can tag how much you're actually burning. And what they unfortunately found was that it is constrained. Your body is incredible. Whether you're eating less or exercising more, your body will get more and more efficient, which means it's going to make it harder for you to lose weight, which means you're going to have to find different methods to keep shocking your system into getting it more healthy or lose weight. And that's why people hit plateaus all the time in their weight loss or their exercise programming. You can't just keep getting better, 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 or lose weight all the time. There's like valleys, plateaus you have to kind of fight through. Now, what is the minimum amount of exercise you need to make an impact on your mortality? Anyone just shout out a number? 40 minutes. Good answer. The actual answer is 15. 15 minutes of consecutive walking every day is enough to make you die at a lower rate than other people. You can do it in 10 minutes, which sounds crazy, but you have to run probably at a 10-minute mile pace for 1 mile. And that's all you got to do to start living longer. Now, the more you do, the more fit you're going to get. So time and intensity matters. This is really, really interesting study. So there's what we call a National Weight Control Registry. I'm a part of this. And go to the bottom here. 94% of people that have lost about 66 pounds and kept it off for 5.5 years, 90% exercise for about an hour a day. The number one exercise was just walking. You don't have to join CrossFit. You don't have to do anything crazy. If you just walk for an hour a day, you can get the kind of gains, the results that you actually want here. Now, the other thing we have to talk about is, like, if you really want to drop weight, running in the fat-burning zone for 20, 30 minutes is not going to cut it. Actually, the joke is we call that the road to nowhere. And how many times have you yourself or you talk to a friend, patients tell me this all the time, they go, "Doc, I go to Pilates 3-4 times a week for 20, 30 minutes, and nothing's happening." Or they go, "Hey, I'm riding my exercise buck or running on the treadmill 20, 30 minutes in the fat burning zone and nothing's happening, doc? How many have experienced that story or heard that story? Okay, the reason is because we all need some LSD in our life. Not the drug. I would never advocate a drug, especially from this position on the pulpit. But LSD is what we call in running long, slow distance. Now, what you want to do, the general goal of exercise is to burn fat, not to just lose weight. If you want to just burn off muscle, and we can just take Ozempic and get rid of all body mass. Now, the thing is, to get to the point where you burn up all the glycogen in your body and you have to tell your body to start using fat, most people, it takes 90 minutes. So if you're not running exercise for a 90-minute time period, you're probably not tapping into your fat stores. Who's depressed by that statement? Okay. Now, the good news is a lot of people, your body's not a switch where it goes carb, 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 fat. So once you get to about 45 minutes, your body goes, this guy's going for a long time. I better start getting my fat mobilized because I'm going to run on the carbs. All right. Now, so minimum is 45 for most human physiology. 60 is pretty good. 90 is when almost everyone's depleted glycogen. All right, so you have to think about that when you figure out your exercise work. Now, there's some ways to trick your body into thinking, let's go burn some fat now, and we'll talk about that real quickly here. Now, one of them is to do resistance training. Now, the women I talk to in my office, they're the ones that are really resistant to this because they don't want to get big and bulky. Yeah, I have some thoughts about that. I'm going to keep them to myself, though. But if you do resistance training, it raises your basal metabolic rate for probably the next 2 days. So if you lift weights 2 days a week, that means 6 days a week, you've actually elevated your basal metabolic rate. Who doesn't want to burn more calories sitting down doing nothing? All right, so resistance training is really important. This study is really interesting. What they found on the left side of this column is people that have low aerobic fitness. On the right side of the column, the last 3 dots are people that have high aerobic fitness. And then those 3 other dots in each section are people that are the weakest, intermediate, and the strongest muscle-wise. And what you find is the people that are the strongest with their muscles, they actually do the best. It's a 50% reduction in mortality by being in the strongest muscle group. Now, and that happens either if you're poor aerobic or good aerobic fitness. Now, this goes back to the women wanted to be worried about being bulked up and stuff. So I just took this off the P90X website. And what you find is most people don't get big. They just get more cut, more defined. And I think that's what most people want anyway, guy or girl. Now, here's another one that's really interesting. This is for guys and specifically about their waist. So, you know, the pear-shaped body is the most unhealthy. Visceral fat's the most unhealthy. So basically, regardless if you do no, low, or high aerobic fitness, which is the bottom 3 categories, the more time you spend doing weights, the more you're going to shrink your waist. Now, this hasn't been studied in females, but I can't imagine this isn't true for females as well. So resistance training, really, really important. Yeah. Now, there's something that's called EPOC. That's excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. That means afterburn. You're burning calories even when you don't or you stop exercising. So I already talked about weightlifting. Weightlifting raises your caloric burn, your basal metabolic rate for about 2 days. There's some other things you do. One is called HIIT, high-intensity interval training. The great thing about HIIT is the minimum amount you need is 4 cycles of HIIT. So you warm up for 8 minutes or whatever, and then you run really hard for 30 seconds. Basically, you walk, do nothing for 90 seconds, really hard for 30 seconds. And if you do that, what you're really talking about is you've exercised for about 2.5 minutes really hard. The rest is going really easy. And that's enough to make your body think, hey, I got to start burning fat. That's one way to do it here. I'll skip this for time. Yeah, so basically we're talking about a short HIIT interval. If you do 20 or 25 minutes with 4 to 5 cycles of HIIT, that's like running at a decent pace for 45 minutes. Totally great return on investment time-wise. Now, having said that, you should probably do HIIT once, twice a week max, and when you're really kind of more in better shape. Once a week is good as you're starting off. You don't get injured. No. Same thing here about, increasing your caloric burn. Now, the other thing is, this is a great study. It's 15,000 people, 5 different countries, and what they found is they looked at sedentary activity, light, moderate, and vigorous. And so what they found is, and they're using accelerometers as well, what they found is as people transition to more aggressive, more vigorous activity, they actually have lower hemoglobin A1Cs, better cholesterol, better blood pressure, and lower BMIs. So everything that we want to happen is happening as you exercise more. I was going to wait for people to read this slide, but okay. I run because punching people is frowned upon. All right, I don't like to be called by HR all the time saying, why are you snapping at people? Why are you bringing complaints about you? All right, exercise is really good, and this is really important. One of the big things is stress. We're going to have a stress session on Sunday as well. But you cannot be healthy if you're stressed out all the time. Cortisol is up, weight goes up, blood pressure up, sugar's up. Cannot be healthy with this. Exercise is great. This is a slide talking about being close to green space. So now the cool thing about the study is almost everything, every mental health disorder is better if you can just actually see green space. The cool thing about the study is researchers go, we have no idea if the people actually went outside into the green space. It's just having access to it. And so there's another concept I'm not going to talk about, but it's called forest bathing. When you get out in nature, lowers your blood pressure, cortisol, your cytokines. It actually makes you biochemically more healthy. Getting outside is good for your mental health, your overall health. Exercise is the same thing. This is a huge study, 1.2 million Americans, and what they basically found is every exercise they looked at makes you live longer. So I don't care what you do, just do something. Do whatever you like. Then you'll keep doing it. And this is an article specifically talking about stress and exercise. Now, the cool thing is the bar on the bottom, that's for people that have high stress but started exercising a lot more. They had the best survival. The worst survival is high stress, did not exercise. All right, exercise is one of the most incredible ways to dissipate, manage, mitigate stress. Highly recommend it. Especially things when you're like running hard, punching a bag, or lifting heavy weights. For some reason, that really gets rid of stress here. The sweet spot also for the stress studies was 45 minutes, 5 times a week. So once again, 20, 30 minutes is good. We probably all want to build up to about 45, 60 minutes of exercise per day. And even 60 minutes, that's 6% of your waking time. That's not a huge investment, and you guys are all worth 6% effort, seriously. Hard to see, but in the middle side of the slide, I just want to read it here. Stress is the third most potent risk factor for cardiovascular disease, stress. The second thing right below that's important is group exercise has the maximal benefit. So if you can play in a sport, my mantra is, if you can play, do that. If you can't do that, train for something with a group. If you can't do that, then exercise. All right, if you can play in a game, that's going to be the way to go. Now, running is interesting. If you run, you add about 3 years to your life. Every hour running adds about 7 years to your life. Every hour of TV you watch cuts about 21 minutes off of your life. So you start thinking about the relative balances here. What's really funny is every time I show this slide, someone's always like, what if I watch TV while I run? And I go, well, it's about 42 minutes, 40 minutes. No, but it's probably a wash, okay? You're probably getting the full benefit of running. Now, here's where it's really important. Tennis is the #1 exercise to make you live longer. It gives you about 9 years. Now, the problem with this study is what? Who are the people that play tennis? Rich people. So if I'm well off, I have time to play tennis, and I can afford the club membership, I'm going to be more healthy. But having said that, I like this example because tennis is a very social sport. I think that really makes a big difference in your long-term health. Let's talk about tennis. Pickleball. Who plays pickleball? Oh, man. Okay, pickleball has not reached San Antonio. Okay, it's coming whether you like it or not. Really good sport, social. Think about it. Easy to get in. You play doubles. It's not that hard. Okay. Now, the last thing, talking about sleep and rest here. So Gwen Jorgensen, she won for the Americans, she won the gold medal for the triathlon. Now, it's really cool. She met her husband, and they're both competitive bikers, and he realized, man, this girl is really athletic, more athletic than me. So he quit, and he started like being her trainer, coach, prep person. So she would go to sleep for she sleeps like 10 hours a day. Then she wakes up, goes for a long run. She comes home. He cooks her lunch and does the laundry. She takes a nap. Then she goes out for another long run, comes back, and he makes dinner for her. All right. So she takes like a 2-hour nap and sleeps like 10 hours. She's literally sleeping almost half of her life to be this kind of Olympic athlete. Rest is really, really important. You cannot have this level of performance by being run ragged all the time. You have to rest. Okay, Meb. So Meb was 39 years old when he finally won the Boston Marathon. And what's very interesting, he went from most runners on a 7-day training cycle, where every other day is a hard day. Meb went to a 10-day cycle. So he had 2 days easy, 1 day hard, 2 days easy, 1 day hard, 2 days easy. And he actually got faster. And then he won the Boston Marathon. So think about that. Working out is important, but also getting rest and recovering is really, really important. 2 things I'm going to just bring up. There's something called overtraining syndrome. And this is really for the ultra athletes. People can overtrain themselves and get burned out mentally and physically, and they can't perform anymore. And so if you look at the people that do cross-country skiing and endurance athletes, they do something called the 80-20 rule. 80% of the exercise is easy, 20% is hard. And that's how you can keep on going and building your aerobic base. The other thing is like leg day. Who likes to lift weights here? Okay. How many days a week do you hit your legs? Okay, 1, 2, 2. Okay, generally like the bodybuilders, they hit it 1 day a week. And then they let that area recover for the whole week. Think about that. All right, if you hit your legs every day, you probably become a cripple. All right, so that's not the strategy for success. So think about taking a break, giving your muscles to recover. This last part's going to seem kind of weird, but this goes back to the 7-day cycle here. So there's almost a reason for everything in the world. So it takes 365 days for us to go around the sun. It takes about 28, 30 days for the moon to go around us. It takes 24 hours for us to rotate. What the heck is a week? Anyone have any thoughts why we have a week? Okay. So if you look back to the French Revolution, they wanted to get rid of religion. And this is the age of reason. So what they did is they go, we're going to go to a base 10 date cycle. Get rid of the Sabbath. So instead of 7-day cycle, they went to a 10-day cycle. How did that work out? Okay, the next part of the French Revolution was called the Reign of Terror, where everyone's just killing each other. Okay, 18,000 people slaughtered just for a disbelief. And I'm not saying this is the actual only reason, but I think the 7th day and having a day of rest for the long endurance athletes, for us, is really important. You can't work 7 days a week. You can't exercise 7 days a week. Having that day off is really, really important. And I think it's actually really cool that was built in at creation, and it doesn't really fit any normal time zone that we can think of here. So to end here, for exercising, just start moving. Okay? Start slow, take it easy, and then you can recreate yourself using recreation to rebuild yourself from the inside out. All right. Muscle is more important than your weight. We want to get rid of fat, but we don't want to lose muscle here. And take rest days. Don't burn yourself out mentally, physically, or get injured. All right. Thank you for your time.
Anybody learn anything just now? I did too. How many of you have questions? You have a question for the doctor. Anybody have a question? It's so great she has a question, but I'm not going to let you ask it right now. Because everybody, if you have a question, we're going to put a QR code up on the screen. It'll be there moment. It's there right now. If you have a question, please click on the QR code, and you can type in your question. And it will be part of the panel discussion tomorrow. Now, depending on how many questions we get, we might not be able to answer every single one of them, but please put your question up and we can maybe try and address it. I have a couple of announcements, a couple of housekeeping things. If you know someone still that you think could benefit from this, there'll be more people here tomorrow. It seems like Saturday during the day is more of our bigger time, but if you have a neighbor that could benefit from something like this, or a friend, a coworker, please invite them. We still have space, and we are in the process of trying to prepare food, and so yes, we do want them to come, but we also want them to have something to be able to eat. We've got free childcare, free food. I'm telling you, this is a great little thing here we got going on, right? Another little thing that we want to address is that our children's program that I mentioned earlier is actually designed by a psychiatrist. And so your children over there, they're getting all kinds of activities. They had a schedule. I saw one earlier. This thing was like, it had exercise and them doing stretching and doing all kinds of things over there. So they're missing out. So definitely have, if you have kids in your neighborhood that you can still, well, if you know their parents, obviously, you can invite them as well, and they can be a part of that program. And then I had one other thing here that I was supposed to say. Oh, yes. In case you have someone that would be interested, but they're not able to actually make it, we are streaming, all right? We are streaming, and you can find our stream on YouTube. We are Scenic Hills Seventh-day Adventist Church, or are we Scenic Hills SDA Church? Let me check that real fast. It's one of the two. You can figure that out. And so we are streaming. And so if you heard something good tonight that you wanted to re-listen to, you can actually go back and listen to the recording as well. So our next session, Dr. Boja, come on up, please. We're going to introduce our next doctor. Now, Dr. Boja, now, did you travel all the way from someplace far away?
It's, I don't know if it may be 5 miles or 6 miles from
5
this
or
place.
6 miles, right?
It's a long ride, by the way,
It's a long ride, yes, indeed. Where exactly is your office? Which area?
We are located on 1604 and Northwest Military, Shavana Park area.
Yes, indeed.
And then I live, close by here too. So, but still, yeah, it's a long way.
It's a long way. Oh, and we got to get my back on this too, because Dr. Hano was making fun of us. Yes, sir, we do have pickleball. Chicken and Pickle is right up the street.
We do have it right
we
here,
have
sir.
it.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
about it
It's
actually,
coming. It's here. It's not coming. It's here already. So, Dr. Boja, you were here last year. You're going to share some new things with us this year, and we are looking forward to that as well. So I know we started a little late, so I don't want to take your time. So I'm excited to hear what you have. So floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you, AJ. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we're going to actually, let's offer something different. I want to first thank the organizers and Dr. Prince right there. Basically, so they requested us to have something different this year. So it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure speaking last year, and we did, talk about the lifestyle medicine and what lifestyle medicine can actually offer, and then how it can help combat your chronic diseases. But this year we were requested to bring some proof. Are there any real cases? I love Dr. Harvey's talk actually, because I always love, enjoy listening to him. It's not just he's funny, he's a cardiologist. In other words, let me ask this question. What's the number one killer of this country and the rest of the world? Heart disease. This program is actually directed by Dr. Prince. He himself is a cardiologist. And always the prime speaker, we love Dr. Harvey himself is a cardiologist as well. In other words, I hope you get the message. The answer is not in the stents, not in the cath lab. Don't even get to my cath lab, right? Don't try to think about, getting the bypass and all that. So that's the message we should get, meaning there is a solution in your lifestyle itself. So having said that, we introduced what lifestyle medicine can offer in theory last year. And this year, we were honored to bring some of our success cases. And okay, so let's have a couple of slides right there. So having said that, we are bringing some of the evidence, some proof. Let's have the advancer. First of all, are you having fun so far? I know this is not a lecture mode. I think this is one of the reasons why actually they wanted me to kind of bring some of these real cases. Don't get bored. Feel free to ask questions, hold those questions up, type it in so that we can answer either today or tomorrow. There you go. Think about yourself or your family. Is anyone in this room or in your family fighting any chronic diseases like obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, cancer, liver failure, right? Fatty liver, any autoimmune disease? Anybody? Unfortunately, you're not alone. In other words, 6 out of 10 Americans have at least one chronic disease. And 4 out of 10, that is nearly half of us, have more than 2 or more chronic medical conditions today. And that's the sad state of the nation. After practicing for more than 15 years, seeing thousands and thousands of patients, I just came to a realization that every single person is getting sicker nowadays. They're on tons and tons of medications. And sure enough, I caught myself one day turning into one of those patients. And after losing 40 pounds and nearly flipping every lab value, my metrics, I decided to do something. Offer a plan, a program to our patients in our community where they can combat these chronic diseases through lifestyle change so that they can rely on less and less medications. And that's when we decided to kind of launch our clinic, NUMI Health. And sure enough, we are proud of our patients. They embrace the lifestyle change. They followed our protocols, all our instructions. And they did make a difference and started quitting, not just losing weight, 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds, without these crazy Mounjaro, Ozempic, and Wegovy, not just flipping their high blood pressure and cholesterol and diabetes across the board. They started enjoying a brand new life. And we call them our NUMI champions. And it's an honor and pleasure to bring 3 of those. We're actually blessed to have 3 of our such champions agree to share their stories with you all to inspire today. And tonight, I'm bringing 2 of them, and we'll have the 3rd one tomorrow. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for David. Please, David. And our second champion to share his journey and the story is our Nikhil. So what we're going to do is actually, I didn't realize that these chairs are actually stuck together. Okay. I think this is the social bonding, right? Yes, so we're done with the social distancing. Now it's bonding. So what we're going to do is actually, we're going to make it actually a little interactive session. So we love to hear their stories. Because one of the challenges is, we know in theory that changing your diet, adapting the lifestyle, the exercise, as Dr. Harvey was emphasizing, and stress management and so forth, we know that it can actually make an impact. But it's hard to find somebody around in your neighborhood, in your own family, that this thing works. And that's the very purpose of this session today. We have David. David actually, he's been a sustaining member of our program since the inception of the clinic, and then just through lifestyle. He was able to bring his triple-digit high blood pressure, meaning 200s and over 100 blood pressure down into normal range without a single high blood pressure medication. And Nikhil, after fighting for maybe 10, 15 years, I think he was able to improve his hemoglobin A1C, which is a diabetic marker, from double digits into single digits with less and less medication, not by doubling of the medication. So having said that, I'm going to start with David. David, if you can just paint a picture, take us back in time, and share how was your health? Health or your life before discovering NUMI Health?
Hello. Good evening.
Go for it.
Okay. Let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I guess I've been whole food plant-based since 2013. The genesis of me changing my lifestyle in 2013 was a significant emotional event. I was diagnosed with cancer. I also chose to retire that year, so I was looking forward to enjoying the fruits of my labor and those kinds of things in front of me. And all of a sudden, I had melanoma under my fingernail. And it's serious, but it's not a big deal. But what it allowed me to understand is that I had high blood pressure because they were talking about postponing my surgery because my blood pressure was very high. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I have a lot of things going on here, but what can I do to get in front of this? And I started reading, I started getting research. A friend told me about Forks Over Knives, which is a documentary that talks about how nutrition and food can make a difference in your health vectors. And I embraced a whole food plant-based diet, and I saw some benefits. Over time, I continued to eat vegan, which is not necessarily always healthy, and my health had gotten to a point where I put on, additional weight. Initially, I had lost about 50 pounds, but I knew I needed to lose more. I knew my blood pressure was high, and so I was almost in a panic. I need to do something. And I was able to look on the internet where all kinds of good and bad information is, but in this case it was very good. And I found Dr. Katapali and Numi Health Clinic. And it just so happened I called at the right time. Yeah. We talked. He suggested I come in for an evaluation. A lot of the information I had been exposed to through various conferences I had been to, books I had read, so I was a true believer in whole food plant-based living. What I lacked.
Yeah, actually, when we met, that was a little challenging to me because we rarely started the program, and then here comes a learned man. He attended so many conferences. He pretty much, and actually, he read more books than me. In the sense, he met the experts in the lifestyle space. I was like, you already kind of followed, a lot of people, and you lost about 40, 50 pounds already. And I don't think there's anything left for me to squeeze out. There's no juice left, right? But I think what caught my attention was his blood pressure was pretty high on that day. Yeah. So 200 is over 110, 120. And I just told him that if you found me in my regular clinic, in my university clinic, I would never let you go without a pill. Not just a pill, 2, 3 pills. But he's been, leading that, managing with that pressure, and he chose to work with us. That's when I think we started the program. Let's hear from Nikhil and see, Nikhil, take us back. And then I know you had a long journey. But I don't know, I think just take us back and see what kind of situation, diabetes you had, and then how were you managing before you found us?
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Good. So I have been a diabetic for about 16 or 18 years. And I thought metformin would do the job, right? So I started with 1 dose, couple of doses, and it kept on increasing over the last 16 years. And all diabetics somehow believed you take the pill, continue your normal life, right? It doesn't happen that way. It stops working after a while. Until late 2023, I had to be rushed to the ER with a very high blood pressure, right? And so after getting discharged, I was on like 5 tablets or 5 pills for sugar, blood pressure, cholesterol, and all the diseases that you were seeing here earlier. And then I had to do something about it, and that's where I started researching, is pill the only solution to diabetes, right, and all the other complications, and that's where I ran into this New Me Health as a program to be able to reverse. So I just thought I'll give it a shot and see, if not anything else, well, at least I'll become slimmer. So that's what I kind of signed for.
Absolutely, yeah. I think I think every single patient that comes to our practice is, that's what excited me. That's what keeps me up all night, every night, because what else can I do? Because there are patients who are actually genuinely, where the defect is. Because this is always, it's a kind of detective work, right? And when you get a patient, I said to Dr. Ben, the nodding his head, I know, where how the gait of my patient and where I can fix his, gait and then through my therapy. But certain cases, I think some of the challenging patients we had were obviously genuinely they tried something, they know something. So I think it makes you exciting and then challenging as well. So having said that, I think you already kind of mentioned a little bit. Let's get back to see how you actually even found us, because you've been doing a lot of research, David. How did you find Numi Health as your potential source for the next stop?
Well, as I mentioned, I was looking for a whole food plant-based physician. And I did a search on the internet, and Numi Health popped up in San Antonio, and I was pleasantly surprised that there was, a physician here that saw the value of changing diet and lifestyle as an integral part to healing. And made an appointment, and we got together, and you explained the program, and I said, let's do it, So that's kind of how I got to Numi Health.
Sure. Anything particularly triggered you, Nikhil, in finding us?
Oh yeah, the trip to the ER. But just beyond that, of course, I was really interested in understanding, can it actually be reversed? So I saw the ad on, I think it was Facebook, where it says, reverse your diabetes. I was like, oh, is this dream or what? So I just thought I'll give it a try, and here I am today.
Well, yeah, that was not just a big question on his mind, but the challenge on my side was Nikhil is actually is a pretty curious man. He doesn't commit to anything without an evidence or some kind of reassurance. So he actually walked in with lots of questions. Is it possible? Is there an evidence and so forth? So, and then I couldn't say that I can make it happen for you, but of course, and I had to give the evidence that I had, and then what my hope and expectations were. But having said that, so let's get back to the actual meat or the substance of the transformation. Let's start with you, Nikhil. What was your journey like? I mean, what kind of changes? Because in theory, we know there's certain things need to be changed, but what tools or maybe technology, what monitoring system, coaching, or any kind of guidance? How did it help you make that leap, across the bridge to get to the other side?
Yeah. So I think it was a mix of just the monitoring tools. Obviously, you get to monitor your blood pressure, all the vitals on a regular basis. The second aspect was the exposure to it's not just the pills versus exercise versus diet, but really understanding all dimensions. I think one of the doctor also mentioned earlier. So stress, sleep, right, are equally important, as much as exercise and your food habits. So understanding all this overall value chain of what needs to be done to really reverse it was a huge learning for me. It made me explore new recipes and things like that, new ways to exercise for the lazy person that I was, and all the things around stress and sleep as well. So it was a journey of about 6 months, and you may have seen the brochures, but it's like going from all the vitals you can think of, right? 2-digit A1C to a single-digit A1C, no pills for blood pressure, no pills for cholesterol, just about 20% for my glucose management, and that's it, right? So a big change. And the other thing is, I was a size 44 trouser or pant, and even 34 is loose for me. I'm just holding on to somehow with the belt.
sorry, Nikhil, for making your pants drop, right? But that's the change, because again, that's not just losing weight. As Dr. Hari was taking us back to the Ozempic and these weight loss GLP-1s, you're not just losing fat with those medications, you lose muscle mass. And the unfortunate thing is, when you stop it, when you bounce back, you gain more fat. So basically, from start to finish, if you look at it, you start from, let's say, 200 pound in a person, and you end up the same 200 pounder, but in between, you lost more muscle, you gain back your fat. That's where the insulin resistance, flips and everything. But it was pretty impressive. Yeah. So I think, as you mentioned, as you see up on the screen, 12 plus A1C coming down to 5.5, or which is a pre-diabetic or even non-diabetic, with a 90% drop in the medications, which is unthinkable. It's impossible to drop the medication and drop my A1C numbers, because the trouble is not in the medication. Our body is not missing the drugs. There's something else is hurting us. I think that's what made it, kind of proved it, like many of our diabetic patients. So David, so how was your such a scary, because I don't know, what scared you in your life? The melanoma, which is a cancer, or the high blood pressure?
Well, I lived a fairly high stress life. Work was intense. I traveled quite a bit. Had all kinds of things going on at different times. But yeah, you just can tell. People know when you don't feel well. So I knew I was in the zone of danger. And while I didn't take my blood pressure on a daily basis, I could tell something's not right. And the 220 over 120 was a bit of a shock. And but you made a huge difference. I think the things that really made a difference was holding me somewhat accountable for me. And you do that through a lot of the tools, a lot of the information that are there. And most people that are rational will say, okay, if I got this information and I notice certain things, then I'm going to do something about doing the positive things and some things about not doing the negative things. And I think your whole approach to medicine, to me, was very unique in that you were able to come up with a tool set and a process that one could adapt and begin to see change and kind of monitor it on your own. I mean, when you did something that you shouldn't have done based on your blood pressure in a day or your diabetes, even the measurements there. You ate something that you probably shouldn't have, or you did something that triggered it. So it's very empowering for an individual to begin to own the responsibility for their health care and not necessarily outsource it to a physician. I mean, they're there to guide you, but you're there to kind of take care of yourself to a large degree, which is very important. Once you have information, you can't unlearn that information. And so I think that piece was very attractive.
That's certainly exciting because it's not just the information that we need. And I think that we're proud of every single one of our patients because embracing that lifestyle is not easy. What we do is basically we create the environment because we need reassurance. We need certain wins. That's what we call micro wins. And every week, our patients are actually celebrating their kind of little things, and right, one step at a time. But we need the reassurance. One other thing is basically, I think our audience right here, I think our friends, they might be curious today because this session, this year's session, the theme is actually exercise. We know we need to do some exercise, but we don't know where to start. And then we don't need to become an ultra marathoner to get to the right state of health. But if you can just kind of shed some light, any realization, Nikhil, that what kind of change did you do? I don't know if you're a runner or anything before. What kind of things, was it a big leap or small steps, or what kind of changes did you bring in terms of physical exercise?
Sure. With a size 44, I don't think I was a runner to begin with, but I think I did follow the program, guidelines to say start walking, then running, and so on and so forth. And thanks, doctor, for presenting the idea of strength training. What I have found is that if I walk for 60 minutes versus lift weights for 10 minutes, the lifting weights for 10 minutes is far more effective than walking for 60 minutes, just in my case. And I'm sure there is some truth to that as well. So thank you for sharing that evidence with others as well.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. Strength training brings down my sugar, especially after a meal, like by 40 points, right, within a matter of minutes. So there is definitely, or just climbing stairs after a meal is a huge gain, personally for me.
Right. That's very, very true. In other words, I think that's, we see that across the board. And that's why we emphasize more on strength training, because we always want to, because for somebody who actually never even walked or ran, it's daunting for them to kind of ask him to lift weights, because conceptually we always think exercise means what? Walking, jogging, running. I don't have time to run, right? But that's just the foundation. And the cardio is just a foundation. That's what we teach. And when you're running on the treadmill or the track, you're burning calories when you're running. The moment you stop, it's done. Versus if you go to the strength training, there are two things that happen, 2 or 3 things basically. You're not just burning the calories while doing the strength training. It doesn't need to be lifting weights. You can use the bands. You can use your own body weight. Pull-ups, push-ups, Pilates, and what else, right? So when you're doing the strength training, you're asking the muscles to go to work, number one. And the muscles have different types of receptors. I mean, the glucose channels. And if you get to the details of the diabetes, the glucose, the gates, they open only when the insulin goes and knocks the door to kind of open up the glucose coming up, sugar coming up, right? At a sedentary stage, when you're a couch potato, when you're not moving and doing any physical exercise, you need insulin to do the job. When you're extremely high, super athlete, you need insulin as well. But when you're actually engage yourself in a moderate exercise, a magical doors open, they're independent of insulin gates. In other words, even though you had very high levels of insulin resistance to start with, regardless who you are, you can actually open those magic gates. That's number one. And then when you stop the strength training, you don't stop burning calories. As Dr. Harvey was nicely putting it, your BMR, your basic metabolic rate raises, so you actually become a continuous energy calorie burning machine. Or in other words, who doesn't want to burn the calories in sleep? This is the secret. You can actually engage, you start strength training and you can actually burn in sleep. I'm not sure how and what kind of changes you brought up, David.
Clearly being more active, walking vigorously every day. I try to do 5K a day. I've added resistance to that process, and that has added more to the burn. I feel stronger. I think my posture is better. You feel good. You have energy. I try to do it outside, so you get to see the green and fresh air. I like doing it early in the morning. It's very invigorating, So those kind of things, are little tricks that you kind of do to incentivize yourself to continue with it and to do more of it.
Just as a practical tip, or maybe I don't know if you can have any, but people might be curious. Let me put it this way, David and Nikhil. You don't get any extra hour in the day. You have the same 24 hours. What made you actually start doing this? Start walking, or maybe strength training or anything. How can you flip it?
Okay. For me, and I'd even suggest that to anybody that's contemplating doing something like this, you got to figure out what your why is. Why am I doing this? Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for my family? Am I doing it for a better life? And it needs to be something fairly substantial, not just a whim. I want to fit into this dress or this suit for an occasion. You really got to dig deep, because that's what's going to drive you. In my case, it was my family. I'm a grandfather now. I have a grandson. I want to see him grow and go to high school and go to college and be the best him he can be. Well, if I'm sick or if I'm dead, that's not a possibility. So you got to do things to put yourself in a position to be where you want to be, and that was my drive.
Yeah, I think it is pretty similar motivation. Self-motivation, I think, is the answer. If you're not self-motivated, you can't get anywhere. That's the truth. Right? And of course, the New Me program, on a lighter note, it was like going back to high school or school again. What's your grade this week? Oh, A1C is not dropped. Go back to work. So
that's a part of the tool, because one of the things we say, you manage what you measure. So that's the beauty. I think we bring all the metrics that you are supposed to be watching on your screen. And that's what actually drives, because, right? We always say, there's no coach, nobody's brainwashing you. You watch yourself and then listen to your body and see how it's responding. If you can actually shed some light on just quickly, results-wise, I think the people might be curious. Okay, so I think they did something. What kind of results did we experience or enjoy in terms of your blood pressure or your energy or your total vitality? What do you see the difference, David, so far?
Okay, so on my journey, I've lost over 70 pounds. 25 of that can be attributed to my time at New Me Health. My blood pressure routinely is 120 over 80 range. I have a routine that I go through to get my exercise, to get my resistance. I've been able to sustain that. My outlook on life clearly is as positive as it's ever been. I enjoy doing things. I have enthusiasm. I feel better. People say I look better. I don't know. That's for Stretching it a bit
Maybe you
more.
should ask your peers and your friends when you're hanging around with your.
And that's the other thing. I mean, you know, I'll be 72 this year. And, you know, as I look at my peer group and I talk to them, they're in a different space in terms of health. And, you know, we can't control the lottery of the genes that we have in our system. They are what they are. But we can change our outcomes by taking ownership of those genes and making choices that support where we want to be rather than take away from where we want to be.
How do you think your friends are doing, your peers are doing? Are there any medications or any troubles?
Well, I have peers that are in very serious situations, but they see it as a bridge too far to cross. And I'm saying, you know, it's like one step at a time. You just got to make change, but it's hard for people. I'm not saying it's easy, but it doesn't mean you give up either.
Excellent, excellent. So in terms of results, Nikhil, if you want to make any, share any thoughts, what kind of numbers you had, and then how many medications were you on, and how many you think you're trying to manage right now?
Yeah, I think I did share. So the A1C has come from like closer to 12 to under 6. Blood pressure's back to 120/80, so no medication. Cholesterol in range, no medication. That's for as far as the medication side of things is concerned. But I think what has changed really in the past 1 year and a half is self-confidence. And there's an element of self-respect, right? So when people talk to you, they talk to you with a lot of, oh, you achieved something different. Maybe you are worth talking to, right? So that's the conviction that you develop over a period of time, beyond just the numbers, right? So I think that has been a really wonderful experience and journey, to a point where you become more conscious about looking at your plate and figuring out, oh, fiber is missing now, right? So it becomes like your second nature as to how you need to balance what you are eating, how much you are sleeping, and so on and so forth. So that's the qualitative side, but I think that is far more enriching for me, at least.
Absolutely, absolutely. The quality, end of the day, it's the quality of life. That's what matters. And the self-empowerment, I think that's one of the biggest things. When you suffer from, I mean, if you're diabetic, yeah, I'm pretty sure every time that the sugar spikes, it just demoralizes, right? It just, you know, kind of, there's no bigger penalty than that. And then finally, I think if you have any message for folks, just to go real quick, in terms of, you know, is it possible? Is it doable? And then how hard and how easy can it be?
It absolutely is possible. I mean, I think I've experienced that. I know many other people that I've met around the country that have embraced, you know, lifestyle changes and are doing great in terms of their processes. So it can be done, but you gotta have that, why am I doing this? I mean, I can't overemphasize that enough. And if that why really is at the core of who you are and where you wanna be, it will be real easy. If it's not, you'll find all kinds of excuses as why you're not gonna do this. You know, the food doesn't taste right, or, you know, I got this to do, I got that to do. But get to that why is my suggestion.
Well, I think that the beauty is actually you're not just kind of learning what to avoid. You discover a whole new world of different, you know, foods that are actually out there, and also the physical exercise and the joy in that. Just a real quick, in the interest of time, Nikhil, what message would you like to give to folks who wants to make a change in their lifestyle?
I think there's just one statement really, right? You never know what you can become until you try it. I think that's how I would sum my own experience in one line.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so before we leave, I just like to kind of share this thought. Does anyone not know this man on the screen? Greatest inventor and genius, right, we think? Well, Edison said, the doctor of the future will give little medicine. The doctor of the future will give little medicine and will interest the patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and in the cause and prevention of the disease. Essentially, what he was saying is, he is such an inventor. I think he comes up with the crazy ideas about, you know, for every trouble you can think of in life. He could actually come up with a pill, or maybe he could invent a machine that, hey, I had a crazy machine that can make the medicine. Instead, such a genius, he said, the doctor of the future should actually rely less on the medication and essentially focus more on the lifestyle. And that simple message is actually lost in time. And then finally, I like to kind of leave with these thoughts that always remember, lifestyle is the best medicine. And one of the proverbs that I always remember and share with our patients is one of my favorite Ayurvedic proverbs is when diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. But when the diet is correct, medicine is of no need. In other words, if your diet is wrong or if your lifestyle is wrong, I don't think any pill will work. Versus if you fix your lifestyle, you probably don't need any medication. And it's hard to put it in practice. And then finally, choose health over everything. That's one of the premise, the purposes of these gathering, year after year, that choose health over everything else, and then finally add life to your years, not just years to your life. In other words, focus on quality of life. No one knows how long we're going to be here, but if you just have that health as your priority, and then to improve your quality of life, I think you can easily find the way to get there. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David and Nigel, for coming forward and then sharing your stories, man.
Thank you, everyone, as well. Thank you guys for sharing those testimonies with us. We appreciate it. A couple of things before we let you go, especially have kids. Kids are going crazy, I guess. If you have not registered for the conference yet, please you can do that. We have these flyers in the lobby you can pick up and you can register. That way also we can know more of a food count. Those of you that have registered already previously to today, make sure you pick up your badge name tag thing, because on the back there is a schedule that you can also share with your friends, and you can also know what is going on as well. Did everybody have a good time tonight? Very good, very good. Thank you again for coming out, but it's not over. Tomorrow we have an action-packed day, okay? So before we go, let's just end with a word of prayer, and you can be on your way. Again, dear Lord, we thank you so much for the testimonies that we've heard, the information that we were given. Knowledge is power, dear Lord. And in your word, you say that your people perish for lack of knowledge. Well, we have heard all kinds of information and knowledge that can benefit us tonight. And we just pray, dear Lord, that we can implement this into our life, and we can change not only our life, but those around us as well. In your name we do pray. Amen. Good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.